Welcome to Microsoft Hates Greg. My name is Greg Deckler, and let me tell you, I hope you're strapped in because I just have a tremendous amount to cover in this video. So, I just don't even, it's hard to even know where to begin with this. So, in my last video, your DAX is garbage. I basically demonstrated that the no calculator approach to some time intelligence functions were far superior to using calculate versions or time intelligence, yeah, even. And so we reviewed year to date, quick quarter to date, month to date, week to date. And I set up a scoring system for this video where basically here's what we've covered so far. So essentially there's 3 points available for each of the calculations, right? If you come in first, you're the fastest, you get 2 points. If you come in second, you get 1 point. If you come in third, you get 0 points. If there's ties, then we'll just evenly distribute the, if it's, they're all equal in terms of ties, they'll all get ones. If their one is obviously slower than the other two ties, they'll get 1.5 points. Regardless, here are the results from last time. So basically, Time Intelligence finished second in the first three. Can't do week to date. There is no Time Intelligence for week calculations. And in the week calculations, the calculate was far slower until it got to week, basically, and that was about the same. So there's where our standings are sitting. Time Intelligence has 2 points, Calculate has 1.5 points, and No Calculate has 7.5 points. And you can see that there's some hidden rows here, so we'll get to those at the end of this video. All right, I always knew that this project was going to take an inordinate amount of time and effort, and I was absolutely correct. That's why I haven't released this video for so long. I've been thinking about doing this video for years. Okay, so let's begin. We're going to start with something simple, right? Previous year. So previous year, what Brett Powell and I presented in Power BI Cookbook is this calculation here. So essentially, we're calculating our internet sales, which is just the sum of the sales, where we filter all the dates for the dates that are greater than or equal to the min of the prior year date. That's a helper column that we have, and then max dates of the prior year date. So that makes sure that it rolls up all correctly. And then this is a modification of that formula where essentially I grab my min date, my min prior year date, and my max prior year date. And then I don't do the all, right? I don't have the filter all. I just have a straight up dates date greater than or equal to min and dates less than or equal to max. Well, I guess I could do this, do that. Okay, so there we go. Internet sales previous year 2. And that's, essentially, well, we'll hit enter on that and let it spin. Okay, so time intelligence versions of this. Now, one might naively think, right? Oh, one other thing in this, if Performance Analyzer breaks, and I found that it's fairly easy to break it, there's some kind of bug going on in terms of I think when you have long running measure calculations and you either stop it or switch to another page or something, basically Performance Analyzer just stops working. And all the starting and stopping and starting and all of that just doesn't do anything. So then you have to restart Power BI. So if I have to restart Power BI in some portion of this video, you'll see my desktop, and that'll be that. Okay, on to the time intelligence version. Now, one might think, since that there is actually a function called previous year, that it would be as simple as calculate internet sales previous year dates date, except that it doesn't really work very well. As you can see, what it's doing is if a previous year, and this is true for previous quarter, previous month, if you give them a partial date, they return the entire year or the entire quarter, the entire month. And this is where, again, the time intelligence functions in DAX make way too many assumptions. They assume that that's what you want. Whereas in this case, what these are doing, and what my no calculate versions are doing, is if I drill down to December 29th, 2011, then the previous year is December 29th, 2010, and it'll return me the value that was on December 29th, 2010. Not the full year for 2010, which is what previous year does, and previous quarter does, and previous month does. So too many assumptions. It's not what I want. So if you stray out even just slightly outside the bounds of the assumptions that are built into the time intelligence functions, they fail to return proper results. Okay, so the next step next one here is that I did was calculate internet sales, same period last year, dates, date. And as you can see, that one returns the right values. And then I have another version right here, which is calculate internet sales dates between dates, date, min dates, prior year date, max dates, prior year date. Now, bit of a cheat because we're using helper columns, but we're using helper columns with our calculate. And I'm also I have a no calculate version that works with just the date, and then one that works with the helper columns. So let's take a look at those. Okay, so I have to scroll up to my no calculate versions. No calculate version. So you've seen this pattern. So I'm basically, it's a little bit different than the month to date, week to date, but what I'm doing here is I'm grabbing the min of the prior year date, the max of the prior year date. Those again, my helper columns. I create a calendar table. So min prior year date, max prior year date. I summarize all the factor net sales by order date. I calculate my sum for my sales, and then do a sum x across it, where the order date is in in my previous year calendar. So that's that. All right, so I have another version that does not use the helper columns. That is the same basic code, except that a little bit different up here, where I grab the min and the max of the dates. I then calculate a date where my year is -1, then the month of the date, month of the min date, day of the min date. Same thing for max. So and then I create my calendar based upon those, and then the rest is the same code. Okay, let's see how this performs here. Let's shrink this down. We'll get the performance analyzer up here. We'll click on some area of the screen so we get out all of that. Start our recording. We will refresh our visuals. Now you can immediately see that calculate and both versions of calculate are miserable. So 6 seconds to return that one. This other calculate isn't even back yet, and it won't be for a little while. All right, so let's take a look at, we have the three, let's see, this TI is this one. We don't really care about it because it's not the numbers we want anyway. But as you can see, it's, almost a second just for the DAX query there. Let's take a look at this TI, this one right there, 53 milliseconds, right? And that's using same period last year. This is using our dates between, that's 51 milliseconds. And then we have our no calculate, this one, leave. That's 57 milliseconds or 91 milliseconds for that one, for that version. This is the version that's using the dates where it doesn't, and not using the helper column, essentially. So with using the helper column, it returns essentially a tie with time intelligence functions, right? No real difference there. I mean, we're within very close, and I've seen these so that when I've done these, I've seen that this no calculate right here, sometimes it beats the TI function, sometimes it doesn't. But it's always very, very close. Okay, so let's now move on to previous year to date. So we will stop this, clear it, and we'll move on to previous year to date. So previous year to date, similar kinds of calculations, rank that up, that guy out here. Again, this is the one that's in the book. Filter all dates max year -1, and dates less than or equal to, or the year -1, and then the dates prior year date, less than the prior year date. Now this one is very similar. Again, I can get rid of that, and I have dates year max dates year -1, and dates, and I'm not using the all, right? So it's replacing the filter context, which everybody says is great and it's so performant, and the reason to calculate is so powerful, except as you saw on the previous page, it failed miserably in terms of speed. So anyway, let's move on to the TI version. Let that guy spin because it's going to take a while to come back. As you might suspect, the TI version of previous year to date is our old friend, same period last year, right? Easy enough. And then we have our no calculate version up here, which is using, again, our date. So now this is one that's interesting. I think that's the one this is. Yeah, this is the one this is using. Now this is interesting in terms of what this is doing. It's figuring out whether it's a leap year or not. And if it's a leap year, it does the date minus 366. Otherwise, it's date minus 365. Does the summarize with the year and the order date and then the sales, all of that sort of stuff, and then filters it. So that's that calculation. And then this one over here is basically using the helper columns. So that the previous one didn't use our helper column. This one does. So the max date's prior year date. You get the year of that. We make sure the filters, and we'll do our summarize, do the filter, yada yada. Now, sorry, I'm covering these a little close, a little fast because there's so much to cover. All right, so let's get the performance analyzer fired up here. Start the recording. Refresh the visuals. Okay, so we got no calculate at 93, got the other calculate at 174. TI very fast, 31 milliseconds, right? And the calculate, that's really long, and this one's still going. There we go. Clear that, refresh it. No calculate 89, TI is 40. No calculates 180. So TI, so yay for TI. It can calculate previous year to date. It's got one in the win column, right? So that's a clear win, I would say, for the TI function. And no calculate comes in second on this one. We'll clear it and refresh it just one more time. No calculate at 120, 48, really long, 227. So I would say that is definitely one for time intelligence functions. Good job, time intelligence. You won one. It's about time. Oh, let's stop on that one. I probably just broke performance analyzer. Clear this. Maybe, hopefully, maybe not. Okay, let's move on to previous quarter. This is where I think it's the next one that's where things get interesting. Okay, so as you can see, the calculate versions are really just struggling. So again, previous quarter, pretty much the same construct. Filter all dates, min, max. We're using our helper columns here. This one that still hasn't returned. I can even select it. So again, dates greater than or equal to min of the prior quarter date, less than or equal to the max of the prior quarter date. All right, TI functions again with the TI functions. So one might think, I believe this one is using previous quarter, and as you can see, it exhibits the same problems. Not what we want. So how do we fix it? We use our handy dates between function. So we calculate internet sales, dates between, min of using our helper columns and that. And as you might suspect, the no calculate version of this is extremely similar to the one that we had before, where we grab our min of our prior quarter date, helper column, max of our prior quarter date, create our calendar table, make sure it's in. Okay. Get that out of the way, start recording, refresh the visuals. So TI was 212. Is that the right TI? That's the wrong TI. Let's see what the right TI does. 35 milliseconds, no calculates 37. I would call that a tie. So there you go. So that's previous quarter, right? And I can show you like these things rolling up and stuff like that. I'll make the PBX file available to everybody. On the MSHGQM website, the Microsoft Hates Greg GitHub site. All right, so we stop it. We're going to clear it. Hopefully I didn't break it. And now let's go on to previous quarter to date. This is where things get kind of interesting. Okay, previous quarter to date. Again, the calculate versions, or the standard versions, right? Basically, I don't know if we actually put this in the book, but it's the same pattern as before. We're using our year quarter number, which is a sequential number that we have for year quarter, and our prior quarter dates, and that sort of our helper column. And then the other version of that, which is not using the right one because it should be this one in that visualization. So failure on Greg's part. Can easily fix that. Okay, so all right, how do you create a previous quarter to date in Time Intelligence. Because it's kind of interesting, right? Because there's a same period last year, but there is no like same period last quarter or same period last month equivalent functions. Perhaps it's an oversight. And let's see, what did that do? Okay, that's right. And then we would definitely want to set our decimals to 0, because otherwise that's unfair. Alrighty, so the first one that I have here, TI previous quarter to date. So you might think, well, we could use dates and period. We just subtract 1 quarter off. But if you notice, 14, 28, 43, the resets to 7 at the beginning of the quarter. This one doesn't read, this one, well, one, it starts, starts on December 29th and January 1st, and it's counting up and scroll all the way down to March. What's March 29th look like in here? Which, okay, these make sense, right? Because March 29th, the first date that's in the order date is are on December 29th, right? That's in the previous quarter. So there's no data, until, for a previous quarter until March 29th, right? So that all makes sense. But in whatever this is doing, we're up to like a 1.4 million. So obviously that's not quite what we're looking for. And this is, again, reason why people get so frustrated with these things, these time intelligence functions. Okay, so then this one's, they're all the same. What's this one doing? This one's using previous quarter, which I already explained. It's not going to work. All right, so maybe we can use parallel period. -1 quarter, nope, wrong. Okay, what is our fallback? TI previous quarter to date. So dates between, date, and then we have our min, dates prior quarter date, max, dates prior quarter date. And as you can see, it's wrong. Because it's not being cumulative across the quarter. This is returning for March 31st. It's returning December 30th, or March 30th, 2011. It's returning December 30th, 2010. So it's only for that. So it's not this and this, it's just that date. And that's because there is no equivalent, right? There is no same period last quarter time intelligence. So time intelligence fails miserably at this. And maybe maybe somebody else has a calculation out there for previous quarter to date. And I'm happy to put it in the comments, and I'll test it and everything, and I can update it. But there's no easy way to get it. Let's put it that way. At least not what I'm trying to stick to is strict time intelligence, right? Just use the time intelligence functions. No extra filters and inside a calculator or anything else. Just strictly the time intelligence functions themselves. If there's a way to do it, I didn't find it, and I tried a lot. Okay, so no calculate version. Wow, looks very similar to all the rest of the stuff. We grab our prior quarter date, our helper column. We create a year, times 100 plus the quarter. We do the same thing in our summarize. We create that same column, and then we compare them, and less than the prior quarter date, PQ date, and we get this guy. So let's go ahead and fire up the performance analyzer. We can start recording. See, when this doesn't work, you hit start recording and this doesn't appear. I don't know what it's doing, but we haven't broken it yet, so that's good. Refresh visuals. And we don't really care about the TI functions because, well, I mean, none of them have the right answer. So why do we care? So our no calculate returns in DAX query in 57 seconds. We're talking 329 seconds. We're talking it's okay. It finally came back in 15 seconds later. That was mainly for the DAX query. Okay, moving right along. So now let me make sure I've got year. Yep. Okay, previous quarter. Yep, and then previous quarter to date. Okay, just making sure I've got all my scoring right. All right, let's go ahead and stop this, clear it. Trying to follow a very specific pattern so I don't break the performance analyzer. Okay, previous month is kind of the same story as previous quarter. The calculate versions are going to look very much similar. So let's see, calculate. Here we go. Internet sales previous month. Here we go. You've seen this pattern. We're using our prior month date helper column. It's kind of foreshadowing what the performance analyzer results are going to be. Here's that same pattern where we don't invoke an all, and we just use the straight up filter replacement, which is supposed to be faster, but well, you know what's going on. You can see with your own eyes what's going on there. Here again, we try to use previous month and it fails because the same issue. You put in a partial date. Previous month is going to return all the dates for that month. We fall back to our dates between function, where we're grabbing our prior month, our min of our prior month date, helper column, max of our prior month date, helper column. I bet you know what this is probably going to look like. Looks very similar. So we grab our min of our prior month, we grab our max of our prior month, we create our calendar table, we do the table, blah, 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 summarize in PM calendar. There you go. Shrink that up, close that. Performance analyzer, start recording. Refresh visuals. TI came in at 41. No calculate came in at 52. Calculate came in at 6 seconds. Most of that's the DAX query. Calculate 2 is still chugging along. Still chugging along. And this is quote unquote, the faster way of doing it, the better way of doing it. We're replacing that filter context. Yeah, bad. All right, let's clear that and refresh them again. 42 seconds, 44 seconds. Again, I've seen these numbers kind of go back and forth between the two. Sometimes this one finishes faster. Sometimes this one finishes faster. But it's always extremely close. So we're going to call that one a tie. We don't want to break the performance analyzer, so we're going to let the calculate 2 finish up, count down 15 seconds, and go get a drink of water while this thing finishes up because, whew. So now I know why Brett and I use the all because at least it's 5 times faster than that. Oof. Okay, so let's stop it, clear it, close it. Previous month's the date. Okay, previous month to date. It's the same story, people. We have select this. Find previous month to date. There it is. It's the same pattern. Filter all, blah, blah, blah. Same pattern. We're using our prior month date, year month number. So there you have it. All right, TI version. TI version, previous month. What's this one doing? This one is using dates and period, right? -1 month. And as you can see, it is not what we want. It just keeps counting up, counting up, counting up. Not sure what it's doing, but it's doing something. Let's see here. Month to date 2. We fall back on our dates between, where we do our min, prior month date. We're using our helper columns, so you've seen that pattern before. And then we have our no calculate version, where again we are doing similar quarter to date, right? We have our PM date, which is our max. We do a year month. We're doing year of the PM date and the month of PM date. Make that same calculation here. Then we can compare them and filter that correctly. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Start recording. Refresh the visuals. This calculate returned in 101. No calculate returned in 28. Time intelligence 46. 79. I'll let this one finish. 16 seconds later. All right, we'll clear that. Refresh it. All right, how do we do here? 28, 29. So again, I'm going to count this as a tie, even though some of the TI, well, that's the bad TI function anyway. But these TI and the no calc approach usually are within a few milliseconds of one another. I know it was no calculate was a lot faster, but I'm generous. I'm going to call it a tie. Okay, last two. Oh, I don't want to break it, so I'm just going to let it finish. I'm giving away the reveal, but it's the same. You can imagine it's the same patterns, people. We have to wait for 16 seconds. Well, while it's doing that, again, just to show you, previous week, same pattern. We're using our prior week date column, helper column. This one gets rid of that right there. So gets rid of that filter all clause. Again, we don't have a previous week for TI or any kind of weekly type stuff, but we can do our old standby dates between using our prior week date helper column. And then the no calculate version right here. We get the min of the prior week date, max the prior week date, do our calendar, in calendar. There we go. Okay, let's clear this and then refresh the visuals. We have a TI of 23, no calculate of 38. This is going to take a while. It's a painful waiting 16 seconds for this thing just to prove a point that calculate's terrible, the performance. Come on. Come on. You can do it, calculate. Chug away. 30 seconds. Oh. So I know that this one has TI has been performing faster than no calculate. But again, this is one of those where in all of my testing I've done, they end up, they actually flip flop sometimes and things like that, but they're all super close. It's not like one is like 3 times slower than the other one or anything like that. They're all usually very, very close. But I'm not going to sit here and wait 30 seconds every time for calculate to finish up. That's just miserable. I mean, you're talking orders and orders of magnitude. Let's do it one more time if you guys can bear with me. 39, 35. So that's what I'm talking about, the flip-flopping, right? Sometimes no calculates faster than TI, but they're all usually pretty close within milliseconds of one another. Okay. I don't want to break performance analyzer, so I'm just going to let it finish. Going to let it go. All these people that have told me for all these years on how great a function calculate is and super performance and no calculate will never perform as well as calculate. Yeah. I hear you. Okay. We already know that time intelligence can't handle like previous quarter date or previous month to date or previous. So we didn't even try it with previous week to date. Didn't even include the visual. As you can see, it's the same. It's going to be the same story, people. I feel like I've become very redundant on this video. So previous week to date, that's exactly what you're expecting. We're using our prior week date column and our year week number column as helper columns. Do the same thing here. Less than prior week date and year week number equals the year week number. So it's all good. And then this guy. Oh, I think I messed up these calculations. Year week number equals max year week number minus 1. Oh no, this is the one. This is the weird one. So as you notice, so January 8th is the same. 7,157. It's the same thing. January 8th, 7,157. There's a weird difference between so this one I'm getting on January 5th and January 6th. This is actually correct. There is a week prior to this. I was doing a bunch of checking on this. I'm not sure why these calculations coming out weird like that, but no, they're definitely not. January 9th is not the same as January 5th. No, wait, January 8th, January 9th, that's the same. January 10th. So it's the same, but for some reason, these two calculations don't return 5th, 6th, and 7th. They start on the 8th, which I haven't dug into why that is. But regardless, that's why those look weird. So calculate, in this case, comes back 36. Talking about 29. The other version of calculate is taking forever and a day. $16. Let's refresh it again. 45, 39. So what I'm gonna do? We're just gonna call that calculate and no calculate. We're gonna call that a tie. All right. Between calculate and no calculate. We already know there's no easy TI solution because it didn't work for previous month to date, didn't work for previous quarter date. So, all right, people, let's get rid of this. Okay, so drum roll, please. Final result tally is in. I've been going through and making sure that this is all correct. So, in terms of points, no calculate gets 20 points. Time Intelligence comes in second with 7, and calculate comes in last place with 5. So there you have it. Again, I spit on your grave, Time Intelligence, and calculate to boot. So that's all for this video. Everyone have a good day, and I hope you enjoyed it.